Welcome to our trash revolution.
I'm so upset. Oh my God.
The guy!
All right, welcome to the Young Turks. Cenk Uygur, Francesca Fiorentini with you guys, live from the Poly Market Studios in LA. So I've got the first story for you guys. We're going to get right into it. Today, Israel killed hundreds of Palestinians, and obviously it was the Palestinians' fault. They were using themselves as human shields and had it coming, and they weirdly hated the people who were occupying and killing them, thereby making it doubly their fault. Also, a piece of legislation passed today. Lobbyists and campaign contributors had nothing to do with that legislation passing. In fact, honorable gentlemen on both sides and gentle ladies had an honest ideological debate over it, and the Republicans won that debate. So that is why that bill has passed. All right, trick or treat. Happy Halloween, everybody. I play mainstream media reporter on Halloween. For the first minute of the show, there you had it.
Is that why your collar is extra popped?
Yeah, that's right. Mainstream media reporters have enough money to pop their collars.
I attempted a little bit of like a spooky situation behind me, but that is very scary. I think you need to do your voice, Cenk. I like your citrus voice. I feel like it's one of my favorite impressions that you do.
Oh yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna do it right now, but you're right, I should have had a more, welcome everybody. Tonight on the news, Israel was right, the Palestinians were wrong. There are no donors and politicians are honest. Was that better?
Yes, beautiful. We do have basically we have polls coming up that kind of sound like that. They're gonna make everyone crazy this Halloween, but happy Halloween, everyone. I'm glad to be here with you all. We've got so many stories. Cenk, is there anything you need to say before we jump into it all?
Yeah, so the two stories, look, there's a million wonderful stories in the show today, but the one where you've got polls going in exactly the opposite direction is amazing and is a perfectly symbolic of the election. So if there's one video you're gonna watch in this election cycle, I think that's it, and that'll summarize the whole thing from Ms. Lisa's to who's going to win. And then in the second hour, I'm probably gonna have a huge debate with one of our hosts. So, and then we're gonna ask you guys what you think. So that ought to be super interesting. So stick around for that too. All right, so let's get started, Francesca.
One of our hosts, is it me? I'm not prepared.
No, it's in the second hour, it's Jordan.
Okay, oh, damn it, now I gotta watch the second hour. All right, let's do it. It's Halloween and people are dressing up. Let's jump into this.
How do you like my garbage truck? This truck is in honor of Kamala and Joe Biden. I think that the comment made by really both of them, because there are really two of them, about being garbage, maybe 250 million people, They shouldn't be talking. That's like deplorable for Hillary. This is the deplorable for Hillary. Joe Biden should be ashamed of himself if he knows what he's even doing. And she should be ashamed because she shouldn't let him do it. She's the vice president, but I assume she's acting as the president. She should never have let that happen. I hope you enjoyed this garbage truck. Thank you very much.
Oh, we did. We really did. Yes, it is Halloween, and Donald Trump decided one day early to dress up as a sanitation worker in response to President Joe Biden's comments about his supporters, Donald Trump supporters, being garbage, not the people of Puerto Rico. But is this just another method for cleaning up the mess that the Madison Square Garden rally, and specifically the comedian Tony Hinchcliffe, made when he made that joke about Puerto Rico being a floating island of garbage? It's a little bit on the nose there. I have thoughts. I'm sure Cenk has thoughts, but if you remember those comments, they really think that this is it. This is the October surprise, that Joe Biden did the deplorables line and said this about Donald Trump supporters. Take a listen.
Puerto Rico, where I'm in my home state of Delaware, they're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization of seen as unconscionable, and it's un-American.
So right, that is the big line, and so Donald Trump decided to play it up and put on the sanitation worker suit. He looks really more like an air traffic controller. He's also like on a tarmac, weirdly. I don't know. There's also, let's just bring up the photo first. There's this photo, because that was seemingly a good idea when, let's be honest, the orange reflective outfit with the orange of his face and the white little blow up doll mouth, like it's just doesn't work. Like that's an undoctored photo, people. But there it is again. And Donald Trump actually, interestingly, for the first time, his campaign distanced themselves from the comments made by Tony Hinchcliffe, comedian, again, who made that joke about Puerto Rico, which was vetted by the Trump campaign. But still, in his garbage truck, he said, "I love Puerto Rico and Puerto Rico loves me," in case there was any doubt. And apparently this stunt went over really well, especially if you're Sean Hannity. Take a look.
As the saying goes, one man's trash is another man's treasure. And today in Wisconsin, take a look at that. This may go down as an iconic, epic moment that we will remember for a long time. Donald Trump hitching a very special ride on a garbage truck, decked out in American flags, MAGA gear. You can tell a lot about the state of a campaign by optics.
I guess. I don't know. I would just put a slogan on the truck like, cleaning up the Democrats' mess or draining the swamp or something. Otherwise, it looks like you really are leaning into being garbage people. And look, obviously, I think we can talk about, Cenk has thoughts, I'm sure, about whether that comment was a smart comment from Joe Biden. I will say this, from a little bit more of a comedic perspective on the comments about Donald Trump supporters being garbage. I don't think they're garbage, but I do think some of them are trash. And they know they're trash. Let's be real. The reason that people like Donald Trump is because he's kind of trash, right? He says the thing you're not supposed to say, that allegedly you're all thinking, like Mexicans are rapists, right? And women, oh, she's not a 10, right? Like that you want to just, you grope them, you do whatever you want, as we'll talk about a little bit later. Like that trash part of America, I think, is exactly what appeals Donald Trump to his base. And many of them would agree. They're okay with it. They're like, yeah, I'm gonna just say how I feel. I don't like the trans, but that's my take, Cenk. I know you have a different take, and there's also a poll coming.
Yeah, so was this a good photo op as a poll? Let's go nuts right now in the live chat. Yeah, I do definitely have a little bit of a different take than Francesca, but I would argue that it's nuanced, but it's not wishy-washy. I'm coming out strongly on all sides, so as you'll see here. So number one, look, I don't think it's productive to call anybody garbage and trash. As you know, how mad were we when he called Puerto Rico garbage? Well, that's how mad the other guys are when somebody on our side calls them garbage or trash. So it's counterproductive. I don't love it. So now, and I've got a real reason why the Trump guys are mad, and I understand it. I'll get to that in a second. But first, all the fake reasons. So guys, really, if you're MAGA, you're gonna pretend that you're upset about name calling? Nah, come on, guys, be real. Nobody name calls more than Donald J. Trump. He name calls in every direction. Everyone is it just, oh no, it's just Democratic leaders? Come on, please don't lie. Please don't be embarrassing. He's called America a garbage can. I mean, look, he constantly says, oh, America's a mess, it's terrible, America's terrible. Well, brother, you were president like 3.5 years ago. So why didn't you fix it completely back then? Anyways, that's the whole country, but you're gonna say, oh no, it's because of the immigrants. Well, okay, then he just called the immigrants garbage. And the immigrants were such garbage, they turned the whole country into garbage. So it's not just this comic, he's the one saying it, okay? And then when you get into Latinos, Jews, blacks, Christians,
Palestinians,
like not only does he insult every group, but then he says, if you don't vote for me when you're Jewish, you ought to have your head examined, and it's probably gonna be your fault. That seems like blaming the voters, doesn't it? Right? And he does that with almost every ethnic group. If you're pretending that you're offended when your MAGA God is the biggest name caller on planet Earth, please either understand that you're super entitled and you think I get to say anything I want about you, but don't you dare say anything about my fragile snowflake ego, because then I'm gonna need a safe space for the rest of the election. No, right. Not buying it. You know what that is? That take is garbage, and you know it. You know you don't believe that. If you do, you're totally detached from reality. Wait, Biden, I thought you said Biden was senile, and I agreed with you guys on that. So now all of a sudden he's not senile and he meant it? Did you see him stumbling around with the words if you watch the whole clip? And he's like, blah, 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 blah. He doesn't know what he's saying. And did he mean the comic or did he mean all of Trump's supporters? My guess is, in his senile mind, he meant the comic. We can disagree about that. You could say, no, I know they hate us, and he meant all of us. Okay, fine, whatever. I don't care about that. But don't pretend that Joe Biden is all of a sudden like has incredible mental acuity, and he meant exactly that, and he meant to insult you guys because he thinks that's a brilliant political strategy. Kamala Harris went out and immediately apologized for it, so apparently not a great political strategy if he meant it, and you know he didn't. Or I don't care if you think he did, but you certainly can't complain if you've been loving the name calling that Trump has been doing this whole time. Now, why are they, one last fake reason, why are they pretending to be so mad? And so maybe some of them are because they're so biased they can't see how much they've attacked left-wing voters and Democratic voters, but I think most of them are pretending. Why? Because they want to be able to say, we're even. We called you 2,000 terrible names. This senile old man slipped up and accidentally said something that we're going to pretend it is about all of us. Oh, we're offended, we're offended, we're all even, okay? So that's a huge reason why. But the second reason is a little bit legitimate. So, look guys, part of Trump's appeal is he hates the establishment, and the establishment's full of elites, and the elites look down their noses at you, right? And so when anyone on the Democratic side calls them garbage, it triggers them more, because then they think like, oh, here comes the elites again, looking down at us. I hate those guys, and it drives them to go vote. So that part I think is true. All right, I said a lot there. Franny, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely right. You have to, I mean, it's unfair, right? We're in these debates, and it's like you have to handle MAGA with kid gloves, as if not just what they're saying, but what they're advocating for. To me, the bigger headline of the Madison Square Garden rally was Stephen Miller saying America for Americans. And we want to, I don't know what that was, but it sounded spooky. And we want to like deport tens of 11 million undocumented people. Like, who's calling for mass deportation? Who is calling for an entire policy towards pro-Palestine demonstrators that basically like locks them up and criminalizes their speech, right? Has an entire plan. It's called Project Esther. Look it up. It's a whole plan for criminalizing pro-Palestine people and calling them the enemy from within. Who's using, let's be real, fascistic and Nazi language? Like, this is the same thing when racists are like, the real racism is when you called me racist. No, that's literally not how anything works. That's like fart logic. Whoever smelt it, dealt it. That's not how farts work, people. Whoever smelt it didn't deal it. But do you understand what I'm saying? It's just so funny to me that they're trying to equate this. But Cenk, you're right. We always have to be the bigger ones and have to say, wow, what a good stunt. You really handed it to us.
Yeah, no, look, again, the policy and politics are different, right? What was a good political maneuver versus what do they actually believe, what's actually going to be the policy. So I don't think that Trump's going to give us any good policies. But in this photo op, yeah, I get it. They're doing the fake outrage, and some of them are actually outrages, I just explained. But this is probably a good photo op for him. That's my take on it. Because he's flipping the frame and he's making it seem like the Democrats are the most guilty of accusing the other side of garbage, and it's taking the power away from what the comic said on in Madison Square Garden. He did this with fake news. Originally his team did fake news all over Facebook in 2016. They literally put out fake articles. That's where the term comes from. But then he jujitsu'd it and said the mainstream media is fake news. Now nobody remembers that he's the one that started fake news. They think his opponents did fake news. So when you have a giant garbage truck with Trump on it and him doing this whole shtick, I think people are, going to think, oh, right, the Democrats called the Republicans garbage. So I think it's, whether it drives us crazy or not, I think it is a good photo op. That's my take on that. And yeah, in terms of the photo op, just the photo op, what's your take on the politics of that?
I don't think it overcomes the comments that were made on Madison Square Garden. I don't think that, again, it's on the nose for trying to be a cleanup crew. He's literally physically trying to clean up the mess from the Madison Square Garden rally. It's just a few degrees removed. Not everyone heard Biden's comments. Not everyone who heard Biden's comments, even as you said, thought he was even being cogent or serious or didn't even remember what he was saying. So again, it's like, nice try, A for effort. It's not like, it doesn't make like Mark Anthony and Jennifer Lopez and all of the like massive like Puerto Rican celebrities just sort of like come to your defense. Nah, man, you're not getting, Hulk Hogan only has one shirt to rip off. Although, no, he's got like a couple, but you know what I'm saying.
I do,
There is more gaff though. We can move on.
Yeah, no, it's just two things here. I want to see how the poll ended, but also, I don't think that it makes people forget about that. And I think that Puerto Ricans are genuinely super pissed. I got to put my glasses on, but 68-32 saying, no, it's not a good photo op. So the only show in America where I'm like, all right, look at that. The audience disagrees with me. Way to have an open mind, okay? So, and we'll put that up on our YouTube community, tyt.com. Member votes count 100 times more. Members, go out there and support me. Okay, no, I'm just playing. It's perfectly good opinion to have on that. And I like that he also had kind of like almost a Halloween outfit the day before Halloween. By the way, the noise that you heard was me just trying to help with the Halloween feel of the story. No, I accidentally opened up something. Anyways, bottom line is it's not gonna. So it's not gonna. I opened up Twitter for a second and it's like. Okay.
I was like, what was that, like a new drink? That sounds really intense.
No, it was a video. And so, but bottom line is, no, the Puerto Rican American voters are not going to, well, they're all Americans, are not going to forget that. Our side's not going to forget the things that he said. But now we're in the get out the vote part of the campaign. So I think this will drive a lot of his voters to get even angrier and go, there they are again, looking down at us. I'm definitely going to go vote for Trump. So in that sense, I think it helps him politically.
I think that's a good point. But Cenk, I mean, like, can you imagine in the final week of your election, the big question that the mainstream, that everyone's asking is, did you just have a Nazi rally or not? Like, you can't imagine that's a good place to be for a campaign. But we will get into the polling. This is not a good place to be either. This was also, not really a photo op. In fact, maybe he didn't mean to say this, but here was Donald Trump tripling, quadrupling, quintupling down on his comments about protecting women. Take a look.
And my people told me about 4 weeks ago, I was saying, no, I want to protect the people. I want to protect the women of our country. I want to protect the women. Sir, please don't say that. Why? They said, we think it's very inappropriate for you to say. I said, why? I'm president. I want to protect the women of our country. They said. They said, sir, I just think it's inappropriate for you to say, pay these guys a lot of money. Can you believe it? I said, well, I'm going to do it whether the women like it or not. I'm going to protect them. I'm going to protect them from migrants coming in.
Okay, there was Donald Trump continuing to not practice the art of consent, especially when it comes to women. He is admitting there that he was told by his advisors, who he pays a lot, and then sort of scoffed at the idea that he would pay them and that they would tell him something he didn't want to hear, which is, when you continue to say, I will protect women and they will be happy if I am reelected, it sounds kind of creepy. And instead, he doubles down on it, shares the information that they didn't want him to say it, and then adds to it and makes it even creepier by saying, I will protect the women whether they like it or not. Now, for those of you who don't remember what he's been saying, let's go back to what he's been saying, again, without that sprinkle little non-consensual piece on top.
And I will protect women at a level never seen before. They will finally be healthy, hopeful, safe, and secure. Their lives will be happy, beautiful, and great again. And it's my honor to do so.
Super non-threatening. Doesn't sound like a plan for mass lobotomies at all. So that already was creepy, but now he says whether they like it or not. I can give my thoughts. I did want to give the presidential candidate, Vice President Kamala Harris, a moment to reply because she did take a moment specifically to call out what he just said. And I thought it's pretty well done. Take a look.
The former president, Donald Trump's remark about women and whether they like it or not. And listen, it actually is, I think, very offensive to women in terms of not understanding their agency, their authority, their right, and their ability to make decisions about their own lives, including their own bodies. And this is just the latest on a series of reveals by the former president of how he thinks about women and their agency.
See, now, I think for a candidate who doesn't often talk about specifically her gender, that was pretty powerful because it's true. He does not view women as people with agency or the ability or care about the ability to consent. In fact, just yesterday, another story of a groping encounter with Donald Trump broke, this time with a beauty queen who he invited specifically to his pageant. This is according to the Daily Mail. We can throw this up. Claims Donald Trump groped her after luring her back to his suite at New York's Plaza Hotel. She was a Swiss banker and she was also a part-time model. Her name was Beatrice Kuehl, and she was going to the Donald J. Trump American Dream pageant at Plaza Hotel because somehow, yes, they let Donald Trump run beauty pageants. According to the Daily Mail, she now lives in the Swiss capital of Bern, and said that after a press luncheon, a Trump staffer approached her to say the celebrity hotelier wanted a private meeting. He took me up to the upper floors. It was one of those big suites, she said. When I entered, he jumped on me. I had just time to turn. I was not prepared. I tried to do what I could to get rid of him. Kuehl says Trump attacked her at the New York Plaza Hotel, which he owned at the time. She said Trump groped her as she told him to stop and tried to shove him off. He kissed me on the lips and on the neck. He tried to lift my dress. He was grabbing and touching my body everywhere he could. She goes on, obviously this is a week after we now know that he also groped a Sports Illustrated model named Stacey Williams, who is then a girlfriend of Jeffrey Epstein. So, Cenk, I'm going to protect you whether you like it or not. I mean, is that what he was doing when he was doing all the groping? I'm just protecting you from all of the other gropers. Yeah, like he seemed, we've all known that guy who's like, just want to make sure no one's bothering you. That's why I'm going to breathe down your neck like a creep.
Yeah. Well, look, especially when you're the candidate who said, I grab them by the crotch, even if they don't want to. I kiss them, even if they don't want it. When you're a celebrity, you get away with it. When you tell women you're going to do something, whether they want it or not, it comes across a little differently from you. It already comes across terribly, if you ask me, from anyone, but especially from Donald Trump. So if this is your big pitch to women, you know what, I'm going to do things to you whether you like it or not a great pitch. I think both sides are trying super hard to lose this election. So, and this is Trump doing, if you don't have enough common sense, especially after the Hollywood Access tape, especially after your history of groping women, by the way, dozens of women, which I'll get into in a second, and you have an adjudicated case that just happened where you were found liable for sexual abuse because you grabbed a woman without permission, I wouldn't go around telling women that you're going to do things to them without their consent, even if it's what you think is protecting them, right? So yeah. We get it, guys, for the MAGA guys. No, he said that he's going to protect them without their consent. No, don't do anything without their consent. And anytime that Trump has done something to women without their consent in the past, it's been to grope them and to sexually abuse them. Look, you can't talk to MAGA guys about that are in La La Land and think, no, Donald Trump's an angel and he's never touched a woman without consent. Okay, I mean, then I can't help you because you don't live on this planet. Okay, but for the rest of us, how many times does he have to do this? Like, look, guys, I know that they bring these stories out right before the election on purpose. That's called oppo research. They plan in the news, etc. Does that mean that in this case it's false? No, these stories have been around for a long, long time. And I would talk about them when no one was talking about them. I bring it up every once in a while because it goes to the character of the guy. The story that I often tell is reporters interviewing Donald Trump and Melania when she's pregnant with Barron. Melania goes upstairs at some point in the interview, and Trump starts to take the reporter on a tour of, I believe it was Mar-a-Lago. And they get into a room and he puts her against the wall and starts groping her. Because that's what he always does. So,
it's his move.
I mean, look, again, MAGA guys will be triggered by this. But given that history and given the fact that he said he's so proud that he took away Roe v. Wade and fundamental human rights for women, I can't imagine that anyone's even close to him as the most anti-woman presidential candidate in history. Like, I don't mean in history because in the old days there was lots of sexist misogyny, very, very bad. I mean in our lifetime, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, are we really pretending that there's any chance he's better for women in this country? Come on.
Well, what's interesting about that clip, Cenk, and I don't know if we have time to watch it again, but it was just interesting because when he says, no, I'm gonna protect women, they're mad at me because I said I'm gonna protect women. Big applause. Huge applause, because I've spoken to Republican women, I pour one out for them and their beliefs and how their party perennially hates them. But a lot of them are like, you know what? We just need a big, strong man, which is truly sort of the hallmark of, a desire for authoritarianism and fascism. The political system is, corrupt. It's not working for me. I just want a dictator and be done with it. But a lot of women have said that to my face. I just want a big, strong man. He got huge applause. But then he added, and I will protect them whether they like it or not. You ruined it. Because it was creepy before, but now we know it did sound forced before. Now we know it's definitely forced. What does that even look like? You won't be able to see a doctor when you're miscarrying, as a woman in the state of Texas who recently died from an infection from a miscarriage. Like, you won't be able to get any kind of contraception. You won't be able to talk to your husband without him ratting you out. You won't be able to seek legal, what is it that you will make, that you will make a woman's world so insular and so perfect? Like, do you understand what I'm saying? Like, it feels much more like a threat.
Yeah, I hear you. Look, I'm going to disagree on one thing. Look, I think a lot of women like the idea of somebody looking out for them and protecting them. It doesn't have to be a man. It doesn't have to be, political, etc. I think it's a normal instinct for that almost all people have, men and women. So And you're right that he got a big applause line for that, and if he'd left it there, it would have actually been pretty good. I don't agree with you that that's like some sort of like leaning towards authoritarianism or fascism. You could be a woman who wants to be protected by your husband or et cetera and not be authoritarian or want authoritarianism. But do they go too far? They clearly go too far, the leaders here. It's like Tucker Carlson did this speech the other day. We showed it to you guys where he's like told about like, oh, your kids aren't acting right and they're, you got to teach them better, et cetera. And they got to know there's going to be consequence and dad's coming home. And it got a big applause line. If he left it there, that's classic conservative way of thinking, no problem. And then just like Trump, he has to take a weird turn. He takes a weird turn. She's been a naughty little girl and you got to spank her. I'm like, what are you doing? Why did you take that turn? Same exact thing here in Trump. Like I'm not gonna begrudge him going with classic conservative thing. I'm here to protect women. But then when you take the turn and go, whether they like it or not, okay, well then you took a creepy turn. That's my take on it.
You made it weird.
Yeah, you made it weird. I'll give the last word to one of our members. Dragon with a Girl Tattoo wrote in tyt.com/2024 to become a member or hit the join button below. They wrote in, women don't need protection from Trump. Women need protection from Trump.
Yep.
And that's probably the best point. All right, we're gonna take a break. When we come back, we've got more news for you guys, including who the hell's gonna win this thing? The numbers are amazing. We'll share it with you.
How do you like my garbage truck?
Welcome to our trash revolution.
Let's go to our members on this beautiful Halloween day. Funkin' for Fun said, a lot of Puerto Rican voters in swing states, if they save this election, the US owes them a big thank you. Yeah, we might want to treat them decently going forward. Under Republican and Democratic administrations, that would be a great thank you. But yes, I believe there's 420,000 Puerto Ricans in Pennsylvania alone. So that was a mistake. The old young Turk says vintage and vintage 1955 says, just realized this morning that the best part of retirement is wake and bake. That's my kind of retired person, all right? I love it, I love it. Good to have you here. James says, hilarious, Trump is a third-rater wannabe insult comic who suddenly has fifis. Okay, I largely agree with that. Although I think he's probably a second-rate insult comic, maybe even first-rate, if that's all he did.
Trump? No.
Because he
should have just used Tony Hinchcliffe to punch up some of his lines. He shouldn't have had him do it,
Yeah, well, I know. So it depends on how you like your insult comics. Like Trump's a nonstop roast, right? Except it's just a roast. It's not really the punchline. But like how he does it and how stupid he is as he does it is oftentimes very funny.
That's true. Which, by the way, Triumph, the comic insult dog, made a return to The Daily Show. He was outside of the MSG rally, and it is, I think, some of the best TV I've seen all year. So funny. And a guy's throwing up a white power sign, Cenk. Have you seen this? In the background, dude's outside of the Madison Square Garden, white power sign straight up. So it's like, we're not making stuff up here. I digress.
Yeah. I always tell the right wing, you guys should be way angrier at those guys than we are. They're costing you the election. And especially because, like, if you're not racist, you're not in that group, you don't think Puerto Ricans are garbage, et cetera, which, they grown, the audience grown, so I assume they don't, right? If I was them, I'd be livid at those guys, livid. They're smearing you by association and they're costing you the election. I know I'm livid at Bill Clinton, which was smearing us and costing us the election, which we'll get to in a little bit. Mechanic66 says Biden should campaign for Kamala the same way he campaigned for himself, stay in the basement. Okay, I think that's fair, but probably a little too late now. Ryan Tokarek writes in, at the Madison Square Garden rally, one of the speakers called Democrats degenerates, another called Kamala the Antichrist. I didn't hear Trump campaign walking back those, only the Puerto Rican comments. I'm not going to weep too much over Biden's moment of incivility.
How
do you like my garbage truck?
Welcome to our trash revolution.
TYT, Cenk and Francesca with you guys. Of course, check out Francesca's podcast, The Bituation Room, on the TYT network. Anywhere you get podcasts, just Bituation Room and you got it. Rage Rock for now, thank you for gifting 10 memberships on YouTube, making you an American hero. Franny, what's next?
All right, this one is a lot of whiplash, so bear with me, but we're talking about how close this race is. The pollsters don't even know what to do. Take a look.
The case for Kamala Harris, the signs as clear as day. If Republicans win come next week, Donald Trump wins comes next week, the signs all along will have been obvious.
Okay, all right. That was CNN data analyst Harry Enton's back-to-back segments, just one day apart, saying that Donald Trump and Kamala Harris have signs of a surge. I feel a little bit like Mr. Enton might be covering his own, you know what, on all this. So if he wins, then there was a surge sign. But if Kamala wins, there was also signs. Don't look at me. I think pollsters are pulling their hair out, just like we all are, as we are only a few days away from the November election. And let's just start with his full explainer for why Kamala Harris could pull off this win. It has to do with her favorability.
And the number one sign is that Harris, simply put, is more popular than Donald Trump. Her net favorable rating is higher than Trump. She's at -2, Trump's at -7. I went all the way back since 1956 and looked at the polls. Does the more popular candidate usually win? The answer is absolutely yes. 16 times the more popular candidate has won. Only one time the less popular candidate has won. I will note that was Donald Trump back in 2016. But of course, remember, Hillary Clinton was quite unpopular herself. Democrats in special elections, their performances the last 2 years. What has happened? We're looking at state legislative and federal special elections. On average, these Democrats have surpassed Joe Biden's 2020 margin by 2 points. And remember, Joe Biden won. So the fact that these Democrats have been doing better than Joe Biden's been doing is a good sign. In 2022, these metrics look awfully similar. In fact, slightly less believe the country was on the right track, slightly more approved of Joe Biden's job, but very similar numbers here. And remember, even though the top metrics were bad for Democrats in 2022, the White House party did historically well in that midterm.
Okay, so that again, Harry Enton from CNN, sort of like giving off like very overeager finance bro vibes right there in all of his predictions of Kamala Harris. So showing that Kamala Harris is much more popular, but the one time that the American public did vote for an unpopular candidate, it was Donald Trump. Oopsies. Anyway, but here is his bid and his for Donald Trump surging and why he thinks maybe it could be Donald Trump.
Just 28% of Americans, voters, think the country is going in the right direction, is on the right track. And I want you to put that into a historical perspective for you. Okay, what's the average percentage of the public that thinks that the country is on the right track when the incumbent party loses. It's 25%. That 25% looks an awful bit like that 28% up there. In fact, I went back through history. There isn't a single time in which 28% of the American public thinks the country is going on the right track in which the incumbent party actually won. They always lose. For Kamala Harris to win, she'd have to break history, be a Democrat to succeed Joe Biden when Biden's approval rating is way underwater. Republicans have been registering voters in big, huge numbers. They have been gaining in party registration versus the Democrats in the swing states with party registration. We're talking Arizona. I think it's a 5-point. They've expanded their lead from 5 points from where it was back in 2020. How about Nevada? Big Republican registrations there. They like the early vote. How about North Carolina? Big Republican registration gains. How about Pennsylvania? We spoke about it before a few months ago. Big Republican party registration gains versus from where they were 4 years ago.
Okay, well, that graphic doesn't even have numbers on it. That's just, you're just underlining states, my guy. But that's cool. This is a hard job, people. So he's saying, yes, there's a swell of registration of Republican voters, according to, again, Harry Enton. And that's why he thinks maybe Donald Trump could pull this off. Also because Americans do not think the country is going in a good direction right now. And generally that doesn't bode well for the incumbent being the Democratic Party. But again, not Biden. So Biden's also not running. So just a little pushback on that. But more whiplash for you. Republican strategist Margaret Hoover, I believe was on CNN. And here she is saying that actually behind the scenes, Republican operatives she's speaking to are like, it doesn't look good for us.
I have heard from Republicans that there is concern at the Trump campaign amongst the operatives that actually really do know the political wherewithal, that the turnout and enthusiasm numbers aren't where they need to be.
Okay, and then others jump in and are like, nobody knows. And then here's a communication strategist, Frank Luntz. He's also a pollster who says that, yeah, no. Trump has the momentum. Take a look.
Biden may have tanked Harris's chances of becoming the president because of his comments about Trump voters being trash, which he has said was a gaffe. But she's also come out and said, no, I'm going to give people a seat at the table and not call them the enemy within. Why do you argue that this might be the big issue?
Because it reminds me so much of 2016, and I think there are a lot of similarities right now between this campaign and that campaign. The divisions in the country were significant back then. People didn't think Trump had a chance back then. He's been gaining and gaining. The momentum, I don't know who's going to win. I can't call it, and nobody should, because statistically and polling and focus groups, it is way too close to call. However, the momentum is clearly, in what I see and what I hear, is in his favor.
I mean, at this point, stick your finger in your mouth and put it up to the wind. Your guess is as good as anyone. These are pollsters who've been doing this for decades who are like, nobody should actually guess the outcome of this. Cenk, I don't really know who to trust on any of this. I think obviously the numbers are better than just hearing someone say like, well, I heard people were worried. No, I heard the dump truck thing was a really good move. What do you make of it, and how do you stay calm in these final days?
So, well, first of all, I have a battle plan in case either one of them wins, and we're going to do a populist revolt. So, come watch us.
Well, hell yeah.
Yeah, come watch us on election day. Let's launch that populist revolt together. But now, in terms of who's going to win, I like to think that I'm pretty good at this. And my answer is right now, well, what do we got? 4 or 5 days left before the election? I have no idea. Okay, and so look, I don't think Harry Enton and the other pundits are covering their ass. I think they genuinely are right that it is tied. And not just tied, it's confusing. So what I mean by that is the numbers keep contradicting themselves. Harry did a pretty good job of explaining it there. And those are two big metrics I also look at in elections. Who is the country going in the right direction or not? And clearly, the Democrats are not winning on that one. So that's a big problem for Kamala Harris. But then, which candidate do you approve of? That is normally very, very telling. And the Democrats Democrats are winning on that one. It's so, color me confused. So the one that usually tells you who's gonna win is, especially in the last 10 years, is who's the change candidate. And on that one, they keep flip-flopping, right? She's the change candidate, he's the change candidate, she's the change candidate. So the country hasn't made up its mind. I've never seen an election like this. It doesn't mean that it's going to be razor thin in the Electoral College. I'll get back to that in a second. There could still be a perceived blowout, but right now, if any pundit is telling you or pollster is telling you, oh, I know for sure who's going to win, they're lying. Because all the professionals, all the guys who are the best at this, including, yes, begrudgingly Frank Luntz and Nate Silver, are all going, I don't know. I mean, I can give you more numbers. And more indications. So for example, as you saw there, Margaret Hoover is saying the Trump campaign, slight panic about their internal polling. Then when you go to Kamala Harris' side, they pulled their ads from North Carolina, which means that that 9 out of 10 times, that means they're giving up, because their internal polling is showing that they're going to lose North Carolina. And in Nevada, the local reporters are saying rural turnout, more likely to be Trump, et cetera, is overwhelming. So now Nevada looks really bad for Democrats. On the other hand, why are the Trump guys panicking about their internal poll numbers? And look, Nevada and North Carolina, et cetera, are probably not going to settle this. What is very, very likely going to settle this is the 3 blue wall states of Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. And again, every day that I look, there's a new poll with a new leader. For a little, and it's the reason Luntz, me, Nate Silver, whoever else you want to put in that bucket, have all said in the last week or so, week to 10 days, it's tied, but our intuition says Trump because of the momentum, is because the polls were headed in that direction. As they're wobbly and wavering, they're a little bit wobbling towards Trump in the last 2 weeks or so. But now there's some new polls out going in Harris's direction, and maybe it's because of all the crazy things that Trump and his allies have said recently, and which goes to the point that I've been making throughout, which is Trump loves to juggle hand grenades. So he dropped a couple of them recently. And by the way, this thing's not over. I mean, as you're going to find out later in today's show, Rudy Giuliani saying the Haitians should have never come out of the jungle. Tucker Carlson saying he was attacked by demons in the middle of the night. I mean, like, there's no end to their madness. So could they punch themselves enough times in the face to cost themselves a super close election at the end? Yes. So there's no way of knowing. I'll tell you who could make all the difference in a second. But this, so far, are you with me on that, Franny? Does that make sense?
I mean, yeah, I agree with you. I disagree with Frank Luntz saying that this is exactly like 2016 in terms of underestimating Trump. I don't think that people are underestimating Trump this time around at all. I think that we are taking Trump incredibly seriously, far more seriously than honestly he takes himself. I think people are very sober about that. And what's so upsetting, and we're going to get into maybe why, is that Kamala Harris was clearly the change candidate. Of course she was a change candidate. Jumps in when Biden's, too decrepit and genocidal to, keep running. And yeah, of course she's a change candidate. But she's cozied up to some of his worst policies, and she hasn't embraced some of his best policies, and she hasn't really staked out her own, her own vision for a country that is different than Trump. Trump's got a vision. We got mass deportations. We got abolishing the Department of Ed. We've got no gender affirming care. Like all the kinds of harrowing visions that Donald Trump has. And that, some of it's not much of a difference considering people can't get abortions in so many states. But a lot of it is like, hey, there's a twisted little vision there. So I just think it was incredible that somehow at this late stage, you could still imagine that Kamala Harris wouldn't be the change candidate. I still think she is, but also I'm biased towards democracy and stuff. So I think that is just more of a disappointment on my end. But I don't think that we are starry-eyed about Kamala Harris winning. No one's cavalier about this. But the other thing that does feel like 2016, Cenk, is like, Kamala Harris has sort of said bye-bye to the progressive base. It's more of a like, I got this, I don't need you. Me and Liz Cheney are gonna ride out with, the undecided voters and anyone who likes Liz Cheney and the Cheney family still, which is Nobody. So there is that vibe that I've gotten from this campaign so far.
Yeah, totally. So let me build on that. So look, if you're looking at these two awful candidates, Trump and Biden, that the country didn't want, like 70% of the country wanted different candidates, then obviously Kamala Harris is a change candidate. But if you're looking to change from the establishment, which most people in the country want, well, then she's not really the change candidate because she's much more establishment. Now, Trump is anti-establishment. It doesn't really mean he's a real populist. He's just looking out for himself. But that leans in his favor when you're looking at how does the country feel about change. And so what's going to happen at the end, and how is this thing going to get decided? Look, first of all, I want you to understand that as close as it is now and as unclear as it is now, all Trump has to do is get like a 1.5 point lead in the blue wall states. And next thing you know, he sweeps all the swing states. Because that's what would happen. And then it looks like an electoral college blowout. And then of course they'll frame that as a mandate, a blowout, et cetera. But the electoral college is so dumb. If you win it by a lot, it doesn't really mean anything. So, I mean, Biden won by a decent number in terms of the electoral count, and certainly in the popular vote. But he actually, in reality, only won the election by 43,000 votes in 3 swing states. So what do you mean by a close election? So it could still be a perceived blowout. And a real blowout would be if Trump won the popular vote. Pause to note how funny that sentence is, okay? Our system is so insane that if a Republican wins the popular vote, that's considered a blowout. I mean, so we expect a Republican to lose the popular vote in a democracy every time, but still win the electoral college and the presidency half the time or more than half the time. So the system's totally screwed, but that would be a surprising result if he won the popular vote, and it would mean he'd win the electoral college by a lot. Okay, finally, the key to victory is, at this point, this is not a thing that usually makes a difference, even though and I love it and I want it to be true, but it's usually the most overhyped thing. Get out the vote, right? Those campaigns, the door knocking, et cetera. Well, good news. This is the one campaign where it matters. So go and get out the vote on whichever side you're on, because that's what's gonna make a difference almost for sure. And finally, the undecided voters, not the undecided, sorry, the unlikely voters, the ones that the polling is not picking up. Did they go towards Trump historically? Yes, definitely, 2016, and even in 2020 in surprising fashion. But in 2022 and 2023, they went to the Democrats because of abortion. So who's got more unlikely voters? And hence, look, if Kamala Harris loses, she has no one to blame but herself. I think she ran a very subpar campaign for most of the same reasons that Francesca just laid out. But if she wins, it will definitely be because an army of women showed up that people didn't expect, and they carried her to victory.
Yeah, and I just want to just double down. There is one more weekend to go. And yeah, if you want to knock doors for your candidate, go ahead and do that. Honestly, every little bit does indeed help. And there's some awesome grassroots organizations that are doing good work, and they're connected to the communities. They're not just parachuting in to try and get their vote at the last minute.
Yep. All right, so we're gonna take a quick break here. When we come back, as we promised you, Bill Clinton punching himself in the face and the Democratic Party in the face in Michigan. What in the world are they doing here? We'll share that when we come back. It's a Bobby. Thank you for donating through tyt.com/2024. You're an American hero. We appreciate you. I want to get to Super Chat, but these member comments on tyt.com are so good. Wang John said, for me, it's not that complicated. I'm fine with calling a person garbage or trash based on their actions as an individual, not an entire group based on who or what they are or where they come from. I think that's an excellent standard. Worst case scenario, Dragon says, I hate Trump, but let's face it, Dems did nothing. They knew Roe was going to be overturned. Did they make it law? No. Have they done anything since? No, just ask for money. I think both things can be true at the same time. Yes, Trump is awful and Dems did nothing. So smartest audience in the world.
Yes.
Dirge says, people seem to forget COVID was a major X factor in 2020 and we shouldn't be using it as a baseline. Dirge, that's a terrific point, and that's another thing that I'm worried about. And I often forget that, so thank you for reminding me of that. But that does make me worry a little bit more. Progressive Pipes Plus wrote in, Cenk, the keys, it's so obvious, of course. Oh, Alan Lichtman. I mean, if Kamala Harris wins, like barely, right? He's gonna pretend he knew it all along. It's just unbearable. Okay, Bees, Knees, and Trees writes in with an excellent handle. I've been loving TYT for at least the last two to 3 years and find you all to be such a source of strength and hope. I've always been a faithful voter and recently started dating a guy who's never voted before and pretty apolitical. He's resigned to, quote, it all being effed and why does it even matter? Well, I've been working on him for the past 4 months and he's finally agreed to vote for Harris. Woohoo, okay. When he promised me he would, I immediately thought to myself, oh my God, Cenk would be so proud of me. Well, I just was. Look at that, you were right. She says, haha, thank you all for everything you do and being a daily source of joy in my life, no matter how bad the news is. Well, how much do I love you? Okay, that's excellent. Every part of that message was as good as it gets. I love our audience. Now let's go to Super Chat as I promised. Nicholas DePerno says, I think Harris wins close. That being said, she hasn't run a good campaign, but Trump is running an even worse campaign. I think also true. Antura says, Trump is an elite calling us garbage for 9 years. Yeah, don't forget, Trump's a billionaire who supports fellow billionaires, had more Goldman Sachs people in his administration than any other president. Trisha Briggs says, hypocrisy is Republican 101, it's in their DNA. Oftentimes. Gunny Chaos says, Trump came out swinging in defense of his supporters, but barely condemned the statements made during his rally. That is also definitely true. Dawn Whitehead said on a lighter note, my husband and I are celebrating our 2nd anniversary today. Happy Halloween, everyone. Well, Dawn, happy anniversary and happy Halloween to you. Love our audience. And Mary Grote wrote in, thanks for always covering both sides. Well, Mary, thanks for hearing us out on that and having a beautiful open mind. We'll be back. TYT, Cenk and Franny with you guys, and Preston the Dragon. Good to have you with us, Preston. Preston, hit the join button below. Instantly turn into an American hero. Appreciate it. You could do that, or you can go through tyt.com/2024. We appreciate you either way. Franny.
All right, this one's painful. Let's go.
It isn't how many we've had to kill, because Hamas makes sure that they're shielded by civilians. They'll force you to kill civilians if you want to defend yourself.
Okay, that is former President Bill Clinton campaigning for Kamala Harris in Michigan, talking about how Hamas just surrounds itself with babies and straps its on. So you gotta kill all the babies. Of course you do. Again, Michigan, home to the largest Arab and Muslim American population in the country. And somehow he thought this would go over well. Oh my God, what are they doing? Once again, there have been 43,000 people murdered by Israel in Gaza at the lowest level possible. Again, the high end of what estimates of how many people have been killed are 200,000. Okay, so again, all of this is still going on, as refugee camps are targeted like Jabalia, as children in incubators are being targeted by having the oxygen supplies of their hospitals deliberately taken out, as children are found with bullet holes right into their skulls, like an assassination. Bill Clinton says that. So you can see why some voters might be upset, those who don't like killing children. And here he is about a little bit more, there's a lot more in fact, about why he thinks that at the end of the day, these voters should just get over it.
I understand why young Palestinian and Arab Americans in Michigan think too many people have died. I get that. But if you lived in one of those kibbutzim in Israel, right next to Gaza, and Hamas butchered them. And so then the people who criticize it are essentially saying, yeah, but look how many people you've killed in retaliation. So how many is enough for you to kill to punish them for the terrible things they did? That all sounds nice until you realize, what would you do if it was your family and you hadn't done anything but support a homeland for the Palestinians, and one day they come for you and slaughter the people in your village? You would say, well, you'll have to forgive me. I'm not keeping score that way.
Oh God, okay, so not only is it awful, it's rambling and it doesn't make sense, but there he is asking Arab and Muslim voters like, hey, what if you had family who was killed? And they're like, yeah, we have. But no, he's only counting the family members of the people who were killed by Hamas. He's not counting the family members of the people who were killed by Israel. It is just, it gets worse though. He is now criticizing Americans for criticizing Biden. Just don't criticize how Biden's handled this, in fact.
When I read that people in Michigan are thinking about not voting because they're mad at the Biden administration for honoring his historic obligation to try to keep Israel from being destroyed, I think that's a mistake. Kamala Harris has said that she will try to negotiate an end to the violence, an end to the killing, and a new peace process, and that ought to be enough.
And there you have the audience at least trying to help him out and applauding, saying that she says she's going to negotiate, even though let's make sure we keep it 100. The Biden administration has foregone negotiation at this point because they don't have a partner in Israel. Negotiations have stopped. There's no more around the clock. There is no negotiations to release hostages. We haven't even talked about the hostages in weeks. No, we haven't heard any American official talk about them or their well-being, to say nothing of the people being slaughtered every single day. But Cenk, how did they know he was gonna just wax on about this and just freelance on how, you should really stop criticizing Biden because he's trying, and I'm gonna say other incoherent and very Islamophobic things?
Yeah, it was a super offensive speech and it was incredibly counterproductive. I mean, this is how you try to lose a race. So let me break it down. First, look, I'm gonna stick with the confirmed numbers, 43,000 dead. That's already horrific, and it's 40 times the number of people that Hamas killed. That's gonna get to the main point, which Franny alluded to, which is, look at his perspective. His perspective is, well, look, when he talks about the family members in the kibbutz who were killed, he's right about that. There were a lot of people there that actually were more in favor of a two-state solution than in other parts of Israel. That's why terrorism doesn't make any sense. You're killing civilians, you don't know who you're killing, and they might actually be your allies and your friends, and so it's a counterproductive way to go. But at the same time, he says, now, if you had your family members that were killed that way, wouldn't you want to, kill 40 times as many of their family members? Number one, my answer is no. No, I wouldn't want to kill 40 times as many families in Palestine. And I would hope that you would be a decent human being and not say that, oh yeah, let's get vengeance and kill oh, remember the people who were killed, some of them really believed in a Palestinian state and were good people to Palestinians. That's why they would want 40 times as many of them being murdered. How does that make any sense? But even more importantly than that, he never even once considers, wait, what if my family was in Gaza and 43,000 of them were just slaughtered? What would that make me want to do? Wouldn't that want to make me defend myself? And how would I defend myself? And what can I possibly do when Israel says we're never going to end the occupation? That is literally a vote they had in their cabinet, that Palestine will never be a state. What are they supposed to do? So I say terrorism is bad. I hope a lot of you say terrorism is bad. But no matter what they do today, in the Israeli press, Israel said that they will not negotiate with the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank for peace. Well, wait a minute. If you're not negotiating with Hamas and you're not negotiating with the Palestinian Authority that works with you in the occupation of the West Bank, who can you? Oh, right, you don't want to negotiate for peace. So this is disgusting. And then to blame the Palestinians for their own deaths. Well, they're using human shields. They made us do it. They made the poor Israeli victims. The IDF are such victims here because Hamas made them kill all those civilians in Gaza. That's a disgusting thing to say. I know that it's a regular talking point on television, and I know that just 5 years ago, or maybe 2 years ago, that Bill Clinton would have said that and everybody would have applauded. Oh yeah, of course, human shields, the right to defend yourself. Of course, slaughter all the Palestinians you want. But today's a different day, man, because you know why? Because we all saw the slaughter with our own eyes. You don't have mainstream media to protect you anymore and to pretend that Israel is the victim when they kill 40 times the number of civilians. Oops, I did it again and again and again and again. But they're just collateral damage. They're just human shields. And the Palestinians made us kill them and made us occupy them because they're the violent ones. Yeah, okay, well, you look disgusting when you say that. So that's Bill Clinton saying, giving a speech that he would normally give his most precious followers, his donors. And his donors were going, yes, 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 let America, so you better send them a $26 billion check. And Clinton would say, and the Democrats would Biden, Harris, oh yeah, and by the way, Trump too. Oh yeah, right away, sir. We're sending you $26 billion right away. Kill more Palestinians. They had it coming. It was their fault. It was their fault. That would work great in a donor room, and it has. That's why they raised a spectacular amount of money. But when you're going to try to get Arab and Muslim votes in Michigan, you moron, you might want to try a different speech. Do you know they also sent Richie Torres to Michigan?
Oh God,
Richie Torres.
What do we do?
What are you trying to lose the election?
No.
Why don't you send Fetterman to go punch a couple of Muslim voters in Michigan while you're at it? I mean, Jesus Christ, how stupid are you on top of being immoral? I've got more of a Franny.
No, but you know what though? This is it. Like I understand that on this issue, Kamala Harris doesn't deserve to win. But also, we understand that Trump would be, and has been far worse. But so if anyone says that anyone who votes for Kamala to do to do damage control or harm reduction isn't serious about ending the occupation, I give you a massive movement, myself included, who will not give an inch on this issue when it comes to the Democrats. But they are better adversaries to fight against. They are people who, when you protest them, they will not criminalize you and drag you out by your feet and tell you should be pushed off of bridges. But there are people who are gonna be sort of like, all right, we hear you. We're all trying to work around the clock. No, you're not. We know you're not. And we're gonna be holding your feet to the fire and we're gonna be pushing you on this issue because as decrepit as Bill Clinton sounds when he advocates for the mass murder of Palestinians, that decrepit little Zionist voice, I want nowhere near the mainstream of the Democratic Party. It is decrepit, why? Because it's dying. It is a dying perspective, and we need to make sure that it dies, truly. Like, that is so old. And then he starts going on about, oh, the Palestinians rejected a homeland in the year 2000 when I was doing the Camp David Accords. This guy, again, still wants us. What are we supposed to do? You're gonna lean over a child who's starving to death in North Gaza and shake your finger at it and say, look, number one, you voted for Hamas even though you were not born yet. And number two, you rejected your homeland. And Yasser Arafat did a terrible job representing you in the year 2000. Ergo, you need to starve to death, and Israel's going to recolonize Gaza. Miss me with all of these talking points. It's so gross. And I just want to throw up the mayor of Dearborn, Michigan, Abdullah Hammoud, who, if you can tell by his tweet, is very much invested in a Harris-Walz campaign winning, but says this: rumor has it the Dems want to send Bill Clinton to Dearborn to rally the Arab vote this weekend. Do us a favor. Stop sending surrogates who have no respect or regard for this community. You're only inflicting more damage. Again, it's a little bit of a word to the wise. Stop.
Yeah. So let me break down a couple more things in this awful, awful speech. And to Franny's point, yeah, I agree. Trump is always worse on every issue, right? And Trump right now is lying to somebody because he's out there going, "Oh, we're gonna have peace in the Middle East as soon as I'm elected," right? And I'm anti-war. Oh, man, wars are gonna be over when I'm elected. And he's going and telling his donors, "I'm gonna let Israel do whatever it wants, and I'm gonna finance it." You know, so I got you, dog. And that's why Netanyahu is backing Trump, because he knows Trump's gonna let him go wild. Anti-war, my ass. And who do you think Trump's gonna serve? The people who gave him millions of dollars, or the average guy? If you think it's the average guy, you're the sucker at the table, okay? So this guy's a legendary con man. All he ever cares about is himself and money. So between the two people that he's telling completely different stories to, my guess is he's gonna deliver for the donors and not you guys, which again, makes him a very standard politician from both parties. Okay, so to the point, back to this speech. So he says, well, you know, Hamas is using human shields, and so that's why the Israelis had to kill the kids. But the American doctors on the scene said there was an extraordinary percentage of kids with headshots, snipers shooting them from a long distance. Kids. Why didn't they, if they're snipers, why didn't they shoot the Hamas guy behind them if that story was theoretically true? Why did they shoot the kid? Nah. And over and over and over and over. Collateral damage, my ass. Look, I get it. Some people are biased and they're like, no, my side is so pure and moral. They would never do anything like that. I don't care if you give me overwhelming evidence. By the way, you sound like a Trump supporter. Overwhelming evidence by every news agency and every human rights group. No, they're all wrong because the whole world is anti-Semitic. So we get to kill all the kids and we're the good guys. No, you don't. No, you don't. You need to, it doesn't mean that you're not good guys. It means you need to turn around. You need to turn around now, okay? Because this is not what good guys do. This is awful. And don't tell me you had to do it when you use snipers, let alone the fact that they used snipers to kill an American journalist and an American recently in the West Bank. All sniper shots. What happened to human shields? No, the snipers are trying to kill those people, innocent civilians, journalists, etc. And then he said later in the speech, look, you know, Israel was there first anyway, before your religion was even formed.
Oh,
okay.
God.
First of all, do you think that's a winning message to say to Muslims? It's not your land anyway. I mean, they were there first, a couple of thousand years ago, maybe, according to some ancient texts. By the way, Israeli professors went to Egypt to prove, like they were like, oh, this is really interesting. Let's see if we can find some archaeological finds that show that Moses was there and the Jews were enslaved in Egypt, etc. These are Israeli anthropologists, came back, nonsense. The Egyptians have so many records, and there's no records of Jews being enslaved there or Moses leading them out, let alone, of course, the nonsense about the Red Sea and the frogs raining down from the sky, etc. So the whole thing is fiction. It's fiction. It's not that there were no Jews in the Middle East, not in Egypt, but there were in the original area, right? But that justifies it? Well, if that justifies it, well, the Turks were occupying both of them. Can I get it back? Am I now in charge? What kind of moronic history is this? And to say, oh, at several thousand years ago they were there, so now they get to take your actual home, and drive you out of it and take your land. And you think that's a winning message to tell Muslim and Arab voters in Michigan? I don't know what happened to the Democratic leaders' minds. I think they all simultaneously melted. I'm not done yet. One more thing. When he said that, no, two more things. When he said it at the end there that we showed you, he said she said that she'll try to negotiate. That should be good enough. She'll try to negotiate after the election, and that should be good enough. No, it's not within a million miles of good enough. That's basically saying, I took the donor money, I'm gonna do what the donors say, shut up and vote for me, and then afterwards I'll pretend I negotiated, and I'll do the same exact thing now, send them a blank check, and let them slaughter your family members. But remember, the only people you should have sympathy for is Israeli family members. Now we say, have sympathy for both, and they say no. Finally, the human shield nonsense, I can't stand it anymore. That talking point is vomitous. Every single resistance group, whether they're terrorists or not, whether they kill civilians or not, every resistance group has lived with civilians. You know why? Because they don't have a choice. They're a resistance group, they don't have military bases, and where do they come from? They don't come from an army, the army's already been defeated. They come from the civilians. So under this logic, well, the Nazis had to kill the French. They had to kill them. They were resisting. They had to kill the Jews. They were resisting. They were doing violence against the poor Germans. Are you offended by that analogy? You should be 10,000 times more offended that Israel right now is starving the children of northern Gaza. They've barely let any humanitarian aid or food in since the beginning of this month, an entire month of a planned starvation where the Palestinian starving children just look like the Jewish kids out of the Holocaust. That should rip your insides out. That should make you so sad for what Israel has become. But instead of turning around, you have a bunch of corrupt, immoral politicians like Bill Clinton going and yelling at Muslim and Arab voters that it's their fault, and if they know what's good for them, they should bow their heads and support Kamala Harris, even though she's 100% on Israel's side. It's disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, and this is, look, I think they're gonna lose Michigan, in my opinion. I don't think the blue wall's done if they lose Michigan. I have a little bit of a different take. I do think they'll, I don't think the whole wall will fall, but I don't think they're carrying Michigan, and I think they'll pick up either North Carolina or Nevada or Arizona or something. But this is bad. I mean, when the mayor of Dearborn's like, you're doing more damage, he's saying, uncle, you've already told us that you don't care about our community's lives. Uncle, stop making it worse. You've already told us, and they want to do more. They're gonna send Richie Torres. Stop, just stop.
Yeah, if you don't know, Richie Torres is the most virulently pro-right-wing Netanyahu government supporting a member of Congress. Maybe he's tied with Fetterman, but he's out there trying to make sure that no one's allowed to criticize Israel. He's on a cancel
more money than any congressperson, I believe.
He's gotten $1.2 million from pro-Israel PACs. I mean, his corruption is so over the top and so disgusting, and he dehumanizes Palestinians. And why is he used? Like a stupid stooge that he is. Let's be honest. Oh, look, we got a minority to say that minority lives don't matter, that only Israeli lives matter. Only Israeli lives matter. 40 times as many children killed, grandmothers killed, aunts and uncles and moms killed in Gaza. Who cares? I don't have to think about their families. They were stupid human shields and they had it coming. That's your stupid message, Richie Torres, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, you monsters, and also morons. And you'd rather serve your donors than win this election. So if Kamala Harris loses this election, I don't want any stupid, idiotic, moronic mainstream media or Democratic Party leaders coming out going, oh, no, it was the voters' fault. It was the Arabs' fault and young black males' fault and women's fault. They didn't come out enough. And it was progressives' fault and it was somebody else's fault. I mean, she had to serve the donors, even though it cost her the election. She has to serve the moneyed interests. No, she doesn't. And by the way, you idiot, you already have the money. You're supposed to use the money to win the election. In the end, at least have enough common sense to turn to the voters, even if you're faking it. But she's not even smart enough to do that. And neither is Bill Clinton, neither is Joe Biden. A bunch of donor-obsessed goons who have no morality at all.
I mean, tell me how you really feel, Cenk, but like.
Yeah. By the way, as always, Trump also. But like, you don't know that Trump's immoral? Congratulations, you're in a tie with Donald Trump. You must be so proud. All right, we gotta go. All right, everybody check out the Bitchuation Room. Franny, thank you for doing it today, appreciate it.
Thank you, happy Halloween, everybody.
You too. When we come back, Rudy Giuliani going after Haitians in the most viciously racist way because they're both trying to lose. They're both morons trying to lose. Tucker Carlson claims he's wrestled with a demon, but literally. Now he's not saying figuratively, literally. And then I'm gonna have a debate with Jordan on a topic. Should be interesting. We'll be back. You're about to watch some behind the scenes footage of the Young Turks. Ooh. Now these are partial videos. If you want to get all of them, you become a member, go to tyt.com/join, and you'll get all the behind the scenes of me, Anna, John, JR, a little bit reality show like, tyt.com/join, and enjoy this. You know what you're seeing behind me? Jersey, hold. Watch me flip this camera. However I flip it. Do I flip it like this? No, I just took a picture. I'm bitsing right now.
What?
Behind the scenes.
Oh, okay. For members? I don't have my face on.
She doesn't have her face on, folks. Oh, that's JR's ass right there.
You can't take 5 minutes off, can you?
No, I can't, Johnny Pie. I said it was live stream, but I was lying. It's not a live stream. It's just for members. Bitsy, this is my cat. You know what his name is? Kiki Cat.
Animals are innocent.
Control room and the insanity is obviously there.
Right now, as you can see, I'm directing or tech directing.
I'm so happy to be here.
This is what like a Labor Day beard looks like for Cenk. Man, you're a Young Turks viewer if you recognize me like this.
Oh, thank you. You are the one person in my life I would love to meet.
What's going on, guys? This is a Bitsy or a BTS or behind the scenes with Hassan Piker, AKA Woke Bay.
Oh, hi, I didn't see you there.
I have finished my show, The Damage Report, and now I get into a really awkward time of the day.
When I'm sitting, the control room is right there. So I can see Bart.
This is the Pittsburgh office, by the way. Referred to often as the boiler room.
You see how it's ripped? Is it super unprofessional to wear that at a business meeting? Or am I like cool, rebel?
I just finished doing the power panel and I'm fired up.
What do you do for TYT? Not a whole lot.
If you're frantically tweeting at us that something's broken, thank you, because I'm fixing it.
And thank you for being a TYT member.
Super last thing, because there's always got to be a super last thing. Oh, that was disastrous. This has been behind the scenes, behind the scenes.
Indisputable is still the fastest growing news show in America compared to CNN, Fox News, and 30 other networks. We tell the truth on Indisputable because the truth is indisputable. We go places that other news media outlets refuse to go. When there were human rights abuses happening at the Victorville prison, guards and members of the community contacted us.
You, through your investigative reporting, unearthed very troubling allegations about specific forms of abuse and discrimination in the federal prison system.
It really doesn't take much to be a trusted voice. All it takes is to be fearless, report on matters, be an advocate. I called it the bullpen intentionally because it's a place of preparation. We present individuals who may have an opposing view, so we debate. Sometimes we interview individuals because their stories deserve to be heard. A survivor of significant police misconduct and his attorney. We covered this story earlier and to remind you of the horror of one man being shot at damn near 100 times by the police. We take time on this show to showcase the temper tantrums of Karens in the wild. We do this not because we want to see people's emotional outbursts in public, but because these incidents are emblematic of a bigger societal issue taking place across the nation, and it has to be checked.
My friend, my big homie, attorney at law, Benjamin Crump.
I just want to thank you, man. Educated, articulate brothers like yourself speak truth to power. It makes a great difference in changing the landscape in America. So
listen, no matter what you do, don't allow the politics of ideology to evaporate the soul that still exists inside of you. They don't stop, I don't stop. Racism won't stop, I won't stop. Systemic bias won't stop, I won't stop. People still need health care, so I won't stop. People still need criminal justice systems reform, so I won't stop. You won't stop either.
The only reason I'm here is because you are a friend.
You are a stiff.
back on TYT. Cenk and Jordan Yule with you guys. Good to have you back, Jordan. And happy Halloween to you, brother.
Happy Halloween.
All right. So we got a lot of stories to get to. So Jordan, take it away.
Take a look at this.
I know the Haitian community backwards and forwards. They lived back 200 years ago. They just shouldn't have been taken out of the jungle and placed in the middle of a small town America.
On Monday, Rudy Giuliani went on a jaw-droppingly racist tirade against Haitian immigrants. Now, the right wing has, for the most part, moved on from its disgusting attacks against the Haitian community in Springfield, Ohio, but that didn't stop Giuliani from slandering Haitians anyways. Let's watch the whole rant. Take a look.
Remember when J.D. Vance pointed out that the Haitians were eating animals in Springfield?
Yeah.
Springfield, Ohio. So that's based on reports to that effect. Now, it may not be true. It may be exaggerated. It may be insane. It may be whatever. But here's what it accomplished. It brought attention to Springfield, which is overwhelmed with traffic accidents because the Haitians are allowed to drive and they don't know how to. I know the Haitian community backwards and forwards. I spent time in Haiti negotiating when I worked for Ronald Reagan. They practice voodoo. And when they practice voodoo, they kill domestic animals. I mean, half of them do. That's just it. And they're not taking people in and saying, oh, Mr. Haitian, are you one of those who kills animals or not? Or do you practice voodoo? They have no idea. So animals are getting hurt somewhere. You've got a lot of these people here. And look, I'm going to say this. It's not their fault. They lived back 200 years ago. They just shouldn't have been taken out of the jungle and placed in the middle of a small town America. That's ridiculous. Or big town America, for that matter.
Cenk, do you believe Rudy Giuliani when he says he knows Haitians backwards and forwards? I mean, this is just disgusting.
Okay, yeah, he doesn't know his ass backwards and forwards. This is a clown show, man. Both sides trying to lose the election, and Rudy's like, "Oh, we haven't said enough racist things, so I'll fill the quota today." So, but there's so much ironies here that I want to break down for you guys. So he said the Haitians shouldn't have come out of the jungle. You want to know what happened to Haiti and why it's actually one of the poor countries in the Western Hemisphere? It's because of deforestation that the French colonists did, and because they wanted to clear the land to be able to use more slaves on the land to plant coffee and other plants that they would then sell. And when they did that, it led to soil erosion, which destroyed their economy. So even though Haiti and the Dominican Republic are on the same island, some morons will sometimes be like, oh, Haiti's so much worse off than the Dominican Republic because they're black. A lot of people in Dominican Republic are also black and brown, etc. That has nothing, you idiots, that has nothing to do with it. What happened was that France ran Haiti, brought in a ton of slaves, and destroyed, ironically, their forests, which led to an absolute collapse of their economy, let alone what they did later after the slave revolution in Haiti. France came and destroyed the country again. So saying that the Haitians are coming out of the jungle is doubly ignorant. It's about as ignorant a statement as you could possibly make. And then he says, oh, that's because they're from 200 years ago. No, brother, you sound like you're from 200 years ago. So make America backwards again? Make America racist again? What do we, and they say, oh, don't call us racist. Well, brother, if you don't think that's racist, I got super bad news for you. That means you're racist. Like any sane person knows, saying that black people came out of the jungle is as racist as it gets. And then he's like, you know, in Springfield, they're eating animals. No, Rudy, they're actually eating animals everywhere. We eat hamburgers and bacon, etc. Those are all animals, Rudy. I don't know if you know that. And he's like, oh, voodoo, so crazy and terrible. You know, they have ceremonies involving animals and stuff. Have you ever read the Bible? Every other page is. And then we slaughtered the goat and sprinkled its blood in the four corners of the temple. Then we slaughtered that animal and sprinkled its blood over here and over there. If you know Jewish tradition and Muslim tradition, we sacrifice animals and feed the poor with it, etc. Boy, they're so crazy over in Haiti. You got him, Rudy. And I bet this helps you a lot with the campaign. I mean, Jesus Christ, man. Bunch of old doddering fools out there saying the craziest stuff. So again, if you're a Republican and you see this and you still say, no, don't call anyone on our side racist. It doesn't mean that everybody's racist. It doesn't mean that everybody's a senile, old, ridiculous racist like Rudy. But these are your leaders saying it over and over and over again. So if you're wondering why some people say, hey, you guys look like you have leaders that aren't perfectly kosher here, this is why. It's not that complicated.
It always amazes me how he has handled his post-mayoral time, right? I mean, he could have rode off into the sunset and been a national icon until he died. He squandered all of that. And now look, it wasn't just that he hitched his wagon to Trump and took on all of that negative branding, all of that baggage. He's losing everything. He's losing his penthouse. He's losing his Yankees World Series rings. He is losing everything that he has because he has just lost his mind and at the behest of Trump has acted on some of his worst, most maybe senile impulses. And like we laid out, the Trump campaign has largely quieted on the Haitian immigrants in Springfield story because there was backlash. The town itself was being overwhelmed by death threats, bomb threats. People were going into lockdown or evacuating buildings. They knew it was a bad look for them, but this guy is just so off his rocker. He's still doubling down. And even the hosts are kind of just like, yeah. I mean, maybe they believe it, but it just seemed like they didn't even know how to respond to some of the stuff he was saying. So it's just, I'll never not be amazed at how bad he fumbled the bag. He could have just been a national hero just by nature of being mayor in New York on 9/11, and he threw it all away.
Yeah, it's hard to humiliate yourself more than this. So well played, Rudy. And by the way, if you're a Republican out there and you want Trump to win, you should be 10 times more angry at Rudy than I am. I mean, these guys, man, whether it was the Madison Square Garden rally. And by the way, Rudy was there saying that Palestinians start wanting to kill Jews at 2 years old to justify the killing of so many Palestinian children. So that, of course, didn't make that much news because politicians being in favor of killing Palestinians is Tuesday. Everybody just takes, oh yeah, of course you would kill the Palestinian children, of course, right? And so now he's insulted not just Haitians, but when you say about Haitians, they just came out of the jungle. You sure you're going to keep the young black male vote that Trump was making inroads towards? And by the way, if you are in that demographic, you really think the Republicans are on your side? I don't know, maybe you haven't seen enough politics in this country to know that the Republicans ran the Southern strategy. The Southern strategy was when the Democrats passed Civil Rights Act and Voting Rights Act, Richard Nixon decided, well, then let me go pick up the racist voters in the South that used to be Dixiecrats. So they purposely decided to switch the Republican Party to the racist party so that they could get those Southern votes. Now that was from decades ago, but they continued that Southern strategy, and 2 different RNC chairs have already apologized for it. But did they really change the strategy? It doesn't look like it, does it? Okay, but you keep thinking that the Republicans have your best interests in mind and see how that turns out for you. All right, we got to take a break here. When we come back, that's not the craziest thing that a Republican said today. How is that possible? Well, it is. We'll share it when we come back.
Animals are getting hurt somewhere.
Animals are innocent.
All right. So first of all, I want to tell you about Election Day. We're going to start at noon Eastern, and we're going to go the whole day. So make sure you're right here on tyt.com or wherever you watch the Young Turks on Election Day. And on tyt.com, we're going to have a whole bunch of things for you guys. We're going to have some games where you could be declared champion of the election. That's going to be fun. We're going to have up-to-date news for you guys, and Jordan's going to be in charge of that for most of the night. We're going to have a watch party for our viewers, and we're going to have a state competition to see which state represents the best. And you could find out more about both of those things at tyt.com/hope, tyt.com/hope. So get involved now. And then last thing for you guys here is that we got Beware Shattered Glass shirts on shoptyt.com. Let's hope that you're proudly wearing that on November 6th. And free delivery for orders over $200. Shoptyt.com. Okay, I'm gonna go to Twitch for a second. Felicity91 with a very cogent point. Thank God Jordan has a baseball cap on, everything is normal. So the country's back to normal and everything's fine. Llama Writer writes in, hey Cenk, to buttress your human shield point, the Pentagon, etc., is in a civilian area. Most military bases have civilian populations around. That's such a great point. I can't believe I never thought about it. You know why? Because I lived within 5 minutes of the Pentagon in Arlington. I think actually less than 5 minutes. So under Israeli logic, if America did anything wrong, of course, another country should have killed me. Hey, America was using me as a human shield. Okay, so let's go to Super Chat. Hardcore Magnanimous Gentleman writes in, when it comes to the Middle East policy, both parties shut their disgusting ears, cover their eyes, and turn into anti-Muslim sentiment. Just in this matter, vote for Kamala is also vote for Trump. Pathetic annihilation enablers, God help us, and free Palestine. Yes, I don't know how Palestine is going to get freed because it isn't these corrupt sons of bitches, but God help those people. SD129 says, I still voted for Kamala and stand by my vote, but I do think Kamala needs to tell Bill Clinton to not campaign for her, just like she told Joe Biden. I agree on that. And guys, look, man, don't feel guilty about voting for Kamala Harris at all. And why do I say that? So you should be livid about her policy on Gaza, and I can get into a whole heap of other things that she's doing wrong. But Donald Trump is terrible on that as well, and arguably worse, and I think he is worse. He's worse on all the other issues, and he says, oh, if I lose, we terminate the Constitution. So you should be proud that you voted against Donald Trump. So I just want to be super clear about that, and that's my opinion. Zach Whitehead says, is Bill so senile he thinks he's still getting AIPAC check this month? No, they live in the donor class at this point. All of their friends are those donors. They don't know any Palestinians. They don't care about Palestinians. So that's why Bill Clinton thinks that.
Animals are getting hurt somewhere.
Animals are innocent.
Back on TYT, Cenk and Jordan with you guys. More news. Jordan.
Take a look at this.
As you can see, I'm not just MAGA, I'm dark, gothic MAGA.
Dark, gothic MAGA. Very, very cool. But over the past few weeks, Elon Musk has made it clear he'll do whatever it takes to get Donald Trump reelected, going as far as tricking and threatening his own canvassers. Now, canvassers and paid door knockers who were contracted by a firm that works with Musk's America PAC spoke to Wired magazine about the insane working conditions they were subjected to. This incident takes place in Michigan, where the Trump campaign outsourced most of its field operation to Musk and America PAC. The canvassers were hired by a subcontractor called Blitz Canvassing, which America PAC has paid more than $9 million to oversee its field operation, Wired reported. They were never told directly they were working for Musk's America PAC and only knew he was involved after they overheard supervisors say the billionaire's name, the source said. In fact, the canvassers didn't even know that they were knocking on doors for Trump. According to one of the door knockers who was flown out to Michigan, I knew nothing of the job or much of the job description other than going door to door and asking the voters who they were voting for. Then, after I signed an NDA, is when I found out we were for Republicans and with Trump. It doesn't end there, because then came the threats and dangerous working conditions. The contract these door knockers signed with Blitz Canvassing said they are expected to maintain a 17 to 22% engagement rate during the operation, which is a high target relative to the number of people who typically open their door for a stranger. A group of out-of-state America PAC canvassers were told during a recent team meeting that if they didn't hit their targets, which the door knocker says were more than 1,000 a week on total doors knocked, the organization would stop paying for their motel rooms. According to an audio recording that Wired obtained, a manager was heard saying the following: "What's going to happen is they're going to stop paying for these rooms, and then you're going to end up having to pay for it yourself. You can't do that with no money." Canvassers were also told they would have to pay for their own flights home, and to make matters worse, they initially had zero transportation to even get around Michigan. On Saturday, October 19th, supervisors for the canvassers initially commandeered some Ubers for them to reach their list of addresses. But by Sunday, the door knockers were loaded into a rented U-Haul moving van with no rear seating or seatbelts, and a photo and videos reviewed by Wired. The video from inside the van shows a bumpy ride with a cage separating the mostly black door knockers from their driver. The driver also told the group of door knockers that he was in pain and had difficulty driving. "I just had surgery, bro," the U-Haul driver says in another recording obtained by Wired. "Like, half my foot is cut off." Cenk, it does seem like the common theme with Elon Musk is calamity, danger, destruction. Are we really surprised that his upstart PAC is beset by dysfunction?
Yeah. I was asked in an interview yesterday if I was looking forward to Elon Musk heading up the government efficiency program, where he would get to decide what the government spends money on and what it doesn't. I was like, no, I am not looking forward to that. So Trump's billionaire donor will run the whole government. Sounds great. So look, guys, if you sign up for a job, you sign up for the job. So it's not my bias, it's just a reality. But in this case, they didn't sign up for this job. This is a borderline kidnapping. They signed up for, I'm going to ask people how they're voting. And apparently the article says mostly black. And most black voters, I don't know them in particular, are not in favor of Donald Trump. I mean, that's just an extra on top of this, right? But then they turn around and go, no, we tricked you, we flew you out to Michigan. Now you're not doing the job that you thought you were hired for. You're doing a different job where you have to kiss Donald Trump's ass and convince people to vote for him. And if you don't, we're not gonna pay for your hotel room or necessarily your flight back. So what is this? Like seriously, it feels like they got some hostages. And it feels like one of those scams where they bring in people from developing countries to be house cleaners or babysitters or nannies or whatever, and then they take away their passport, and then they go, now you're stuck. Now you have to do everything I tell you to do. And you're a billionaire, dude. You're the richest guy in the world. You can't find people to. Well, maybe he can't. Maybe he can't find anyone to hire even to say that they're in favor of Donald Trump. So he had to go to this strategy. Isn't there millions of MAGA guys who would volunteer for this stuff? Apparently not. So he had to trick poor people who didn't sign up for it. You guys sound like you do amazing as people running this country.
Yeah, that's one of the things that maybe people should be encouraged by, that in such a critical state like Michigan, they are, I mean, allegedly human trafficking or kidnapping people and holding them hostage and forcing them to canvass. One of the things that happened when Kamala Harris replaced Biden on the ticket was there was this huge groundswell, like 100,000 volunteers signed up in one day, and they've gotten more since. And you see these types of movements on the left all the time. Like there was even more for Bernie in 2020. Many people flew across the state willingly on their own dime. I was one of them because I believed in that campaign and what he was putting forward. Flew to Nevada to canvass, and I was met by hundreds and hundreds of other people who did the same. No one needed to round us up and throw us in a U-Haul. So maybe there is something to be encouraged by that. Even in Michigan, when people know how critical of a state that is, this is the tactics that they have to employ to get people out there to canvass. But to be fair, Trump's team denied all this. We have to report that, of course. And they're saying they're running the most sophisticated and modern campaign ever. But this isn't even the first time that Musk's ground campaign has gotten flack. The PAC is reportedly using a third-rate app with no geolocating that doesn't even appear in the Android or Apple store. Data leaked to The Guardian also suggests America PAC canvassers in Arizona and Nevada have been faking up to 25% of their recorded door knocks. Now, the point of these canvassers is to turn out the vote for Trump and get people who typically don't vote to show up and actually vote, which in turn means the campaign may have failed to reach thousands of voters that they think or were expecting to reach and convert. Now, Cenk, that is a big part of Trump's strategy. It's getting people who are sitting at home, activating them, and that's one of their paths to victory. But it looks like by giving it to Elon Musk, they may have failed in that effort. So if he wins, let's make sure Elon Musk is in the government.
Yeah, so they're so sophisticated that they couldn't find any transportation for these folks other than a U-Haul truck with no seatbelts. Sounds super sophisticated. I can't wait for them to be in charge of efficiency. And lastly, look, if you signed up to door knock for Donald Trump and you're getting paid for it, you should do your job. But if you didn't sign up to door knock for Donald Trump and he did a bait and switch on you, I don't know why that rate's 25% fake. It should be 100% fake. What are you doing? Why are you bothering to actually do it, right? Go to a nearby Wendy's, hang out. If they got a Jersey Mike's, go there. Have a nice time and go, oh yeah, I knocked out all those doors. I bet this sophisticated app figures out that I didn't. I'll see you at the U-Haul. All right, we got to take a break here. Well, let's take a quick break. And we still have the insane Tucker Carlson story for you guys. And then the Jordan debate that I promised. We got to do that when we return. We'll be right back. Social break. So we love good progressive sponsors. Aspiration is one of those. So you normally put your money in a bank, they're going to use it to invest in a whole bunch of things. They're going to give you almost nothing in return. They're going to keep the rest, and that's the way banks normally work. And when they do that, they invest into a lot of things, and almost all of them invest into fossil fuel companies, which then destroy the planet with your money. Aspiration doesn't do that. It keeps your money clean, really easy to use, get cash back in their green marketplace that has 80 progressive companies that are trying to do some good in the world. And if you want, you could plant trees with the card. So aspiration.com/TYT, and you don't have to move all your money. Just try it out, see how you like it, move a little bit in there, and I think that you're going to feel really good about it. And so, and it gets to have better rates because it's doesn't have all those retail stores that you don't really need at all. I do all my banking online. So aspiration.com/TYT, definitely check them out. They've been a great sponsor of ours for a long time. All right, let's keep going. Let's go to YouTube members. David Rodriguez says, at this point, both Trump and Kamala are playing hot potato with the presidency. They're both trying to lose. Yeah, David, I couldn't agree more. I've been saying that for a while now, and every one of these stories proves it. Phil J says, Elon gives off vibes like you don't want to know his browser history. Well, Jesse Waters would say, a man shouldn't move like that. But to be fair to Elon, he has so many kids. I don't think he has anything to prove in that regard. Richard Linares says, in '96, Israeli Arabs boycotted the election knowing Perez was a lesser evil, making Netanyahu prime minister for the first time. He started a cycle of provocations and retaliation. This killed Oslo, not Rabin's death. Richard, I hear you on that. I don't think they should have boycotted that election. I think it was a disastrous idea. I think that Oslo was killed for a great number of reasons. But a lot of the negotiators there on Clinton's team said that it was not irrefutable. But Ehud Olmert gave a good deal in 2008. I wish the Palestinians had taken that, but it doesn't matter. You still have to end the occupation. We'll be back. Back on TYT, Cenk and Jordan with you guys. We've got so many more stories for you guys. Some of them are going to spill over into the bonus episode, but let's get started. Go ahead, Jordan.
Take a look at this.
And I'm going to let him go wild on health. I'm going to let him go wild on the food. I'm going to let him go wild on medicines. The only thing I don't think I'm going to let him even get near is the liquid gold that we have under our feet.
Go wild on medicine. And that is what Donald Trump is saying Robert F. Kennedy Jr. would do in a potential Trump administration if he wins next week. And we're learning more about what that role would be. According to a Monday report from Politico, Kennedy told attendees at a virtual event that the key to his plans is that President Trump has promised me is control of the public health agencies, which are HHS and its sub-agencies, CDC, FDA, NIH, and a few others, and then also the USDA. While that seems unlikely, given the scope of the potential role, it wouldn't be out of character for Trump. You might remember that Mick Mulvaney was tapped by Trump to serve as both the director of the Office of Management and Budget and also as the director of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau simultaneously. Nevertheless, it remains unclear what RFK's exact role might be. While the Trump campaign denied this, telling Politico that formal discussions of who will serve under Trump are premature, others on Trump's team seem thrilled to have Kennedy dictate national health policy. But as you've heard Trump indicate in that clip, the only thing that'll be off limits for famed environmentalist RFK Jr. would be environmental policy. Now, Cenk, I know you've been sympathetic to some aspects of RFK Jr.'s policies, stances, actions in the past. Do you think this is a good thing, or do you think that not even being able to help shape environmental policy is a big red flag?
No, of course, terrible thing. So look, there's 3 things he's good at. I've said it 100 times. He's great on environmental policies. And Trump just said, it's the one thing I'm not going to let him touch. Okay, great. And that's what he's built his career on, his actual professional career. And he's good on anti-corruption. He won't be able to touch that. He's good on housing. He won't be able to touch that. So instead, he's going to give him all the things he's terrible on. And Bobby Kennedy Jr. has a reputation for being wild. Even if you like him and you think it's unfair, dropping off dead bears in the Central Park, the whales and the this and the that and the sexting and the billion other things that have gone on. And you're going to say in your speech, I'm going to let him go wild. Okay, all right. So that's rhetorically a terrible take, I think. But I know he's trying to get the Kennedy voters, but I think it might cost himself a lot of voters by saying, hey, don't worry, I'm going to let RFK Jr. go wild in my campaign. I'm just going to give him this random gigantic role that doesn't even exist, where he's in charge of health and human services plus agriculture and the food supply. Okay, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. And I bet that doesn't sound troubling at all. I bet that everybody thinks you're super sane and we're really looking forward to it. Look, guys, when I say let's go populist and anti-establishment, I'm talking about corruption. I'm talking about getting money out of politics. I'm talking about serving the average man. I'm not talking about saying that 99% of the doctors in the world are wrong, 99% of the scientists in the world are wrong. So I don't know what he's going to do, but if they start, limiting vaccines, it could end in absolute disaster. So, okay, great. We have that to look forward to. They're all going to go wild in the Trump campaign. It's going to be 4 years of utter chaos if he wins.
Well, on that front, Cenk, Caitlin Collins did ask Trump's transition chair, Howard Lutnick, about RFK Jr. potentially having a role in shaping some of this medicine and health policy. And this is what he had to say.
Is that true? Has Trump promised him basically the HHS job?
So I spent 2.5 hours this week with Bobby Kennedy Jr. And it was the most extraordinary thing because let's face it, we've all heard on the news all sorts of sort of snarky comments about him. And I said, so tell me, how's it going to go? And he said, why don't you just listen to me explain things? And what he explained was when he was born, we had 3 vaccines and autism was 1 in 10,000. Now a baby's born with 76 vaccines because in 1986, they waived product liability for vaccines. And here's the best one. They started paying the people at the NIH, right? They pay them a piece of the money for the vaccine companies. Wait a minute, let me finish. And so all of these vaccines came out without product liability. So what happened now? Autism is 1 in 34.
Okay,
amazing.
Neither of us are doctors.
Vaccines
are safe. RFK, I mean,
Why do you think vaccines are safe? There's no product liability anymore.
Vaccines
Here's what he
don't
said.
cause autism, which is what RFK pushes, which is why people are concerned that he could get a job like HHS. And I don't even think
he's not getting a job for HHS.
Now, of course, vaccines do not cause autism. And the studies have suggested that they did have been shown to be fraudulent. But for why autism rates have increased, advances in diagnostic capabilities and greater understanding and awareness of autism spectrum disorder seem to be largely driving the increase, Rutgers researchers said. But there's probably more to the story. Genetic factors and perhaps some environmental ones too might also be contributing to the trend. What environmental factors could be contributing isn't totally clear, but what is clear is that vaccines are not one of them. Plus, much of the risk of developing autism, around 83% according to one analysis, comes from inherited genetic factors. But getting back to RFK Jr. and Lutnick, he said pretty firmly that he won't have a job at HHS. Trump was asked the very same question during his garbage truck photo op, can't believe I'm saying that, and had a very different response. Take a look.
With him, and he's a very talented guy. He wants women's health, he wants health for people, and we're going to work with him. He's a very, very talented guy. He's a friend of mine.
Cenk, all of this. What do you make of this? Even the dump truck.
Yeah. So look, depending on whether you think this is good news or bad news, he might screw over him at once he wins, and I'm going to explain why in a second and how. But first, come on, guys. Like when RFK Jr. makes a point that they have a product liability shield and that protects those drug companies from being more tested in court. Okay, I hear that point, and that's an interesting point. But there's also a reason for that, and that should be worthy of a debate between intelligent people who understand the issues. But then he makes it seem like because they have that shield, that no one's ever done a test on a link between autism and vaccines. But that's not true. A lot of people have done those tests, and all of them say there is no link. And they say, wait a minute. When Bobby was born, he's in his 70s. When he was born, autism was barely diagnosed. I mean, come on, that's sophistry. You don't know that? You're gonna make that point to try to mislead people? Oh, it's more diagnosed now, so you see how it increased because of what? And by the way, a lot of things have happened in that 70+ years. Oh, it must be the vaccines. And that, no, he's never convinced me that he knows better than 99% of the scientists in the world. Sorry, if that hurts your feelings, that's a sad day, okay? But no, I believe the doctors and the scientists. So look, here's how he can get screwed though. Cabinet positions like the head of HHS require Senate confirmation. So he could just have him try to get confirmed by the Senate. The Senate says no, and then he goes, "Oh well, Bobby, I tried. You're such a good pal. You know, let's go hang out together." But no, you get nothing. I already got your votes. That would be a very Trump move, right? So that's not impossible. On the other hand, Trump, when people don't get confirmed, does something that, like, I get it, man. Honestly, I might do it too, and if that upsets you, that's fine. But he just goes, okay, he's acting secretary, and he'll be acting secretary for 4 years. What are you going to do now? And the answer is, we got it in his first term. The Democrats aren't going to do anything, and there isn't anything they can do. So he could make him chief doctor of the planet, and there's nothing Democrats can do about it. So buckle up, brace for impact. In the bonus episode for members, Tucker Carlson attacked by demons, he says literally and physically, and we're going to break that down. And I've been promising you the debate. We ran out of time here, but we're going to do it in the bonus episode. Jordan and I debating an issue that I think you guys will find very interesting, and hopefully if we'll have time, a machete-wielding Trump supporter. So hit the join button below to become a member, catch all that, or go to tyt.com/2024. We'll see you there.